This is Gina Jean, and we're going to begin looking at layers now. So I'm going to go to my Creative Cloud panel, and we're working in Photoshop Creative Cloud 2014. Select that. And as it opens, the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to select File, Browse in Bridge to open up Adobe Bridge. And I'm going to open up an image from our 1302 week 2 folder. Okay. All right. And so I've opened this JPEG from Bridge into Photoshop. And this week we're going to discuss layers. First of all, the Layers panel is located over here in the lower right-hand corner of your workspace. If you need to reset your workspace to match mine, I am working off of the Adobe Essentials workspace. You can select Reset Essentials in the upper right-hand corner, and then that will make the Layers panel easy for you to see. Additionally, if you want to open the Layers panel, you can select Window from the menu at the top and come down and select Layers, and that will open it as well. Alright, so within Photoshop there are basically two different types of editing. There's destructive editing and non-destructive editing. Destructive editing is any type of an edit that occurs that can't be undone. Non-destructive editing means that you can always go back and undo what you did. So it is considered the best practices to do non-destructive editing, because other than using your history panel, which is up here, this 3 stacked squares with the arrow going up, you can back up however many steps you've got saved in your history panel. And so in a sense, you can even revert back with some of your destructive edits that way. However, once you save and close, you're not able to do that. And once you run out of history spaces, you're not able to do it either. So it's considered best practices to utilize layers and adjustment layers in your editing process to make your editing non-destructive. In the Layers panel, you'll notice across the top we have several different options. We have our blend modes, opacity, and then along the bottom several more options. So it's just going to take us a little while to go through. When you open an image, the first layer that you see is going to be considered your background layer, and you'll notice that it's locked. Now you can create a new layer or duplicate this background layer, and you can make edits to that, or you can even edit the background layer. However, it is considered best practices to duplicate that background layer so that you always have your original image at the bottom, untouched, and to begin making edits on a new layer. Additionally, you can use layers to resize an object or text, move an object or text, combine several images into a composite, apply a selective color enhancement, adjust individual elements such as lighting and color, retouch individual aspects on an image, and add editable text. And once you save your file as a Photoshop document or a PSD file, your layers are still individually accessible and editable. One good way of thinking about layers to an image is to visualize a pizza. The pizza at the bottom, you have your foundation, you have the crust, and then you have the sauce, and then you have probably your pepperoni or mushrooms. And then you start layering on additional toppings. That's exactly what happens as you begin to add shapes and text and other items onto an image. Okay, let's briefly review the layer panel. Over here on the right, you can select the type of layer that you have. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate my background layer. I can do this a couple of different ways. I can right click on the background layer and select to duplicate it. I can go to my panel menu in the upper right hand corner and select to duplicate layer. Either way works. A shortcut for duplicating that layer is Command or Control J. And so when I do Command J or Control J if you're on a PC, you'll see that it duplicates the background layer, which is to say that the same image, turn it on and off using the eye next to this thumbnail, the same image is on the top and the bottom. Now any edits I make to layer 1 will be only on that layer, and I'll always have my original file on this background layer. So I'm going to turn layer 1 back on, and now you'll see that I'm on layer 1. I've got all of these different options available to me. So I can apply the type of layer I've got here, color, smart object, effect, etc. Next to that, I've got the filter for pixel layers. Next to that, I've got... Okay, so now let's review the layer panel. As you can see, now that I have duplicated this layer, I now have access to all of these buttons and menus along the top of the layer panel. So the first one that we can see is this drop-down menu of the type of layer that I've got. Next is going to be the filter for pixel layers button. Next to that is filter for adjustment layers. Next to that, filter for type layers. Next will be filter for shape layers, filter for smart objects. When you click these, it'll filter through and allow you to see what types of layers you've got. Below that is the blending mode menu. So when I click on the blending mode, I get this drop down menu of all the different types of blending modes. As you'll see, when I go through and I make or select different blending modes, you can see how my image is affected. And we'll be going through different types of blending modes and what they do later on. Beside that is the opacity, and you can adjust the transparency or opacity of your layer right here by percentage. You can either type in the percentage or you can use a slider and you can scrub to the right or left and adjust your opacity that way. Right below the opacity is the fill. Again, you can type in a number or you can scrub to the right or left and adjust your fill that way as well. Now, you can apply a lock to the selected layer by clicking next to the lock. You'll see a lock appears and disappears as I click. You can also lock image pixels, position, or everything. When I clicked on the box, I was locking everything, but I could have selected just to lock individual pixels or my position within the layer grouping. If we look at the bottom, you'll see that I have a trash can. So with a layer selected, I can drag it down and leave it in the trash can, or I can just click on the trash can and it will discard whatever layer I have selected. The Create New Layer button looks like a square with a corner folded up. Next is a new group. I can select multiple layers and create a grouping. Next to that is create a new fill or adjustment layer. Next to that is to add a layer mask. After layer mask is add a layer style. And then next to that, the little chain link is linking layers, where you can link layers together. And that essentially is the layers panel.